This episode was brought to you by Resilient Nutrition. Pals, greetings and welcome to another episode of Everything Endurance. It's a pleasure to have you back here for the second week in a row. That's nice, isn't it? Back-to-back podcasts. Haven't done this for a while, not since we were at the real heavy end of the first lockdown all that time ago. That was either a year and a half ago now or an entire decade. It's really hard to tell at this point. But no, nice to be back with you 2 weeks on the bounce. I'd love to keep doing this. I really would, but we'll be away again next week as I'll be moving house. So, you know, don't be mad at me. I'll be having much less fun than you, presumably. But then we'll be back the week after. I've got some great guests lined up. Really pleased with the next set of podcasts that we're going to be putting out. So yeah, be there. Listen, I'm sure you will. You lovely people. Before we get into the business of, talking to today's guest, I just wanted to give a massive congratulations to Steve Bate. Steve Bate, MBE. My apologies, to get his full title correct. He's out in Japan at the moment. He's one of the cyclists with the British Paralympic team, and he's just bagged himself a silver medal. There's other events he's going to be taking part in over the next few days, so good luck for them, but congratulations for that medal, Steve. Steve Bate appeared on the podcast a few episodes ago. I highly recommend you go and have a listen. He is a thoroughly bloody nice bloke who has achieved some exceptional feats in a number of different fields as well. He's just absolutely worth listening to. Really inspiring stuff. Also, right now, the UTMB is going on. So, I mean, anyone who's heavily involved in the ultra running scene, you'll know at least a couple of people right now who are getting ready to head out into the mountains. So, you know, good luck to everyone out there. We will be dot watching at home and wishing you the best of luck. Not too much business to attend to before we get started on this week's episode. I'm gonna slide straight into this interview. Some of you might feel like there's a little bit of deja vu here. Like, surely we already listened to this episode once, like 3 episodes ago, but no. Every now and then somebody will appear on the podcast and then go ahead and do something else utterly ridiculous and hugely inspiring and wonderful within a matter of weeks. And what am I to do? What am I to do, dear listener, but call them up and have them come back onto the podcast again? We knew when we spoke to this guest last time around that she had a couple of other big challenges in mind that were coming up pretty soon. I had an inkling that we may end up talking to her again before too much time has passed, and I was right. So the person we're going to be talking to on the podcast today was here 3 guests ago on account of the fact that they just pulled off an amazing win at the Summer Spine race and grabbed themselves a course record in doing so. Within a matter of a few weeks of that, they went out and were the first woman over the line of the Lakeland 100, which is another incredible win. Within a matter of weeks of that, like 3 weeks, she took her legs that had already been through these amazing challenges, headed back onto the Pennine Way, and bagged herself the fastest known time for a woman running the Pennine Way. So that's a course record and an FKT this year that she's taken off Sabrina Verjee as well. Another absolutely exceptional runner. I mean, how incredible. In the last podcast, we talked about how this particular runner had a fantastic year in 2019 and then got injured, and then the pandemic, and, you know, could have got frustrated and bogged down, could have really stopped her progress. But we're going to be talking to somebody today who has just happily bounced back and is currently having the best 2021 out there. I am, of course, talking about #Super Trooper Anna Troup. Good morning then, Anna Troup.
Hello.
Again, Anna.
Nice to see you again, Will. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it absolutely is nice to see you. I just didn't necessarily expect to see you again so soon. And here you are, barely, 2 months down the line, if that, from the last time we had a chat. You've had an interesting couple of months.
It's been full on. It's been a busy few months, including GCSEs, A-levels, university, just normal family life like most ultra runners have to deal with. So
of course, all the usual goings on of the real world.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, it's been good. It's all been good. Good family time.
Fantastic. Good family time. So we've stowed that. Some good GCSE and A-level results. People get what they wanted.
Girls aced it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
And a couple of decent results for you as well, by the looks of it. That you've managed to, after I interviewed you for that storming performance on the spine, boom, straight in with the Lakeland 100. Then within weeks of that, out for a Pennine Way FKT. Congratulations. You've had a pretty incredible 2021 so far.
Thank you, Will. I know it has been a bit unexpected, a bit exciting, but a bit unexpected.
You know, usually when I finish an interview with someone on the podcast and we sort of talk tentatively about, what do you see yourself doing in the future? It's all a bit up in the air. I'm not sure when I'll get to speak to them again, but this is ridiculous. You went straight in. So I'm very, very impressed. It meant I could reuse my same research notes from the last time as well. So,
oh yes, I remember now. This is what she did.
I mean, I really want to get into the Pennine Way FKT because that's always interesting business. But I don't want to skip over the Lakeland 100. I've done the 50 myself. People are very familiar with this race. Like we know it's a tough one, and it was, exceptionally hot weather this year as well, wasn't it?
It was really, really hot. I mean, I think it was, possibly the worst heat in a race that I've known. And we've raced in the Alps. We've done really hot UTMBs. It was just that it never cooled down. So at 4 a.m., we got this sort of tiny blip where it slowly cooled. So for the 100 runners, they had been out there in just muggy, sweaty heat the whole time. And I think everyone forgets with the lakes, you're just exposed. That, if you're not actually out in it on the rocks up on the top of the fells, you're down in the bracken where it's like being in a jungle. So I sort of think of myself as quite good in heat. I think of myself as liking heat. It was just horrendous. I went for the full dry heave, up on Tilbury Way. It was, I was definitely heat exhausted. And I'm sure others were even worse. Well, Richard did his usual and ended up in an ambulance and in hospital, but we'll come to that, Will.
What?
So it really will be like spine deja vu for you. It felt like spine deja vu for me.
I don't know where to start. Richard seems to have a difficult time out of these adventures. He really, really does. I'm hoping he's not a common factor in you having successful races. You have to hospitalise him in order for you to do well.
Yeah, that's why I'm not doing the Dragon's Back. We're letting him get on his own, so he might get through that one without hospital train.
Yeah. Leave him to it. He can have one race this year to himself. Incredible. So, go on then. What were your expectations going into the Lakeland? Because it was obviously you hadn't had. How much time was it between the Summer Spine and the Lakeland in the end?
I think it was either 3 or 4 weeks. I think we finished the Summer Spine on the Tuesday, didn't we? And then we must have started Lakes on the Friday, so it was probably 3.5 weeks.
It's not a long time to rest your body for after 268 miles of racing, is it?
No. I don't think it would be sort of perceived wisdom that it was a great plan. But I felt really good in the Summer Spine, and I felt really good pretty much immediately afterwards. We'd been able to train after a week. Once all the sort of fat feet, fat legs, everything sort of went down again. We were back to really normal training. I did go and see the physio, and he did check out everything and said, actually, bar a slightly tight hip flexor, you're good to go. So he said, so what was interesting, is after the Summer Spine, heart rate was high for a little bit, and it took a week or so to come down. He said, if your heart rate's back to normal, properly back to normal, I'm comfortable with you racing Lakeland, but I don't want you racing Lakeland if you're even thinking about doing an FKT. So he said, if you go out with different expectations, go and do it. Go and try and beat your time from last time. Go and have a great, adventure. But I don't really think racing and an FKT is a top plan. So I went in with a really sort of sensible expectation. I wanted to beat my time. That was it. We weren't aiming for anything. And I was so super sensible. I did let everyone go. So everyone disappeared up the road. I found a really nice guy called Jonathan Gibson to run with. The pair of us had just expectations of beating our times. That's all we wanted to do. So we sort of motored along gently. People were disappearing, but I met some legends. I met Karen Nash. I had a chat to her. She went up the road. All these people that I just let go. And then we got to Dockwray, which is the sort of Hardmoor station, and I sat down, and I'm starting to feel pretty rubbish by now. By definition, you feel rubbish. It's Lakeland. Everybody feels rubbish. If you only get away with feeling rubbish once, you've done well. And in that aid station, they fed me some ginger beer, and she said to me, "Do you want to know where you are in the field?" I said, "I think I'm 7th or 8th. I think there's about, a bunch of really good girls just up the road." She said, "No, actually, you're in 2nd, and Elaine is 30 minutes ahead." Well, now that was a bit of a problem, because I've gone from thinking, this is easy and I'm having a lovely time and I will beat my time, but that's going to be fine, to, oh dear, now I've got to make a decision. But I thought, I'm parking that decision till Dalemain. Don't race till Dalemain, whatever you do in the Lakeland 100, because the second half otherwise will bite you. So we just carried on doing our thing till Dalemain. We picked up a chap called Richard Lendon. We'd had a lovely, literally, it was the Three Musketeers along the road. I've never heard such a name chat. The boys were being real boys. And then we picked up Georgina, who eventually came in the top 5, I think, and she ran with us for a little while. And then she was doing brilliantly, and confidence, I think, just made her think, I must drop back. Actually, she could have stayed with us. Next time, Georgina, next time. And we carried on, got to Dalemain, and I found out Elaine was still half an hour ahead. And I thought, okay, right, now I've just got to do something here. I feel great. Let's go. I felt so much better by the time I got to Dalemain compared to Dockwray. Threw some coffee down. Let's go. It was light. Definitely, let's go. By the time I got to the next aid station, she was coming out as I was coming in, and I was like, okay, that's 5 minutes. So we've taken 25 minutes in about 7-8 miles. That means we're moving quite a lot faster. And then I knew Fusedale, which is the massive climb out from Ullswater, was there. I thought, right, I've got to make this decision now. Do I go? What do I do? And I sort of was playing with the tactics, because I knew there was Debbie Martin-Consani and a group of really fantastic women not far behind, because I'd seen them come into the aid station at Dalemain. So I knew they weren't far behind me. I could see Elaine. And it was like, if I don't push on and go past Elaine, they may catch me. But if I do go through Elaine, I'm going to have to be on my own out front for 40 miles. And psychologically, you feel quite chased at that point. And that's hard. You've just got to keep motivating. And because Richard isn't with me, because he's racing the 50, I can't get my phone out because I'm too rubbish at this stuff. So I don't actually know where I am. I've got no idea on the tracker. Some people are really good and they keep an eye on themselves, but I just have no idea. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to go for it, push it hard. And I had a really great run along to Mardale, and I found the Bracken bit really easy, was running really well. So I thought, okay, we've got 45 minutes or so, and just hold it and just keep going. But I had to, honestly, in that race, draw on all my other races and experience just to keep going. I had to keep convincing myself that anything can happen, that people behind will be slowing, that I felt rubbish, but everyone felt rubbish. Everything that you learn from racing, I was having to bring to bear. Just keep moving forward. Yes, you feel rubbish, but yes, you'll get to the end. And it was just a case of one big slog. I picked up a guy called Sebastian Betteret, who I've raced with before. Sebastian's brilliant. He'd failed to charge his watch, failed to bring the charger, so had no nav whatsoever. Yeah. So Sebastian, who's hopping around like, just a gazelle, because that's how he is, stays with me. And I'm like, Sebastian, can you just go ahead? Because I'm feeling rubbish and you look like a gazelle. But he can't leave me because he doesn't know where he's going. So Sebastian stays with me all the way as I'm dry heaving on the top of Tilbury, and he's looking horrified, not knowing what to do. And I'm like, you can't do anything. Don't worry. I'll be fine. We'll just keep moving. Just keep moving, Sebastian. Go that way. So in the end, I get him to Tilbury. And I say to Sebastian, just go. All you've got to do is go up and down. You can't go wrong. And have you used your road book, Sebastian? He's like, oh, is it good? So Sebastian, it's really good. Use your road book. So I sent him off, which for me was a psychological break, because if you're feeling rubbish and you've got a gazelle next to you, it's not particularly helpful.
Not what you need.
Not what you need. And then I just carried on. And it was just, I think it's possibly one of the best wins, because I had to work so hard for it. I mean, it was really, in my head, it was like, I listened to Beth Pascal after Western States, and she sounded at times mentally scarred by what she'd had to do and how much she'd had to leave on the trail. And I kept thinking, if Beth can leave it all on the trail, I can leave it all on the trail. It was a real case of doing that, Will, which I don't think I've ever had to do before, really feel. And I've really left it all out there. But so Lakeland for me was a great win and a great experience, because yet again, it's added to that bank of resilience, if you like. Things are really bad, but you can get through them. And if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you will eventually hit that finish line. And then it was brilliant, because my little one, Bella, who's 16, was at the end. She'd been helping with all the marshalling all the time. She got me across the line and into the medic tent, because I'd had a massive tumble at Ambleside. They'd sort of patched me up, but 20 minutes later, it was like, I really need to go, because there is a second lady out there. Can I just get a move on? sitting at Ambleside thinking she's going to be coming around the corner any minute. So so Bella got me sort of patched up by the medics at the end. Then we had to wait for Richard to come in, who he'd done the 50 and won the men's V50. So he was in an hour and a half or so after me, sat down, ate, did his normal thing, then clapped. So Bella and I had to sort him out with ambulances and medics, and we had medics all around him. We can't find a pulse, oxygen, Richard at Hardwell all over again. Oh yeah, on his back, middle of the marquee. It was like 42 hours. He's on his back in the middle of the marquee with his feet up before he really goes, into a very big slump. Another chap falls over him and faints next to him. So it's just like bodies everywhere in the marquee wheel, because I think it was so hot. Everybody was coming in and just going, oh. So me and Bella were dealing with that. Meanwhile, knowing that Millie, my 18-year-old, was still out on the course in the 50. So wow. So poor Bella and I, we're there till about 2 a.m. waiting. Millie did brilliantly. She was the youngest finisher and I think did sub 15 hours. So she did amazingly.
Brilliant.
We were like, go Millie, come on Millie, get a move on because we really want to go home to bed. So I'm still filthy in all my kit and Bella's been holding the fort for 24, 48 hours. So we're all knackered. And we've had to send Richard off in an ambulance because they won't let any of us go because of COVID. So he's headed off to Barrow Hospital. And we're there welcoming in Millie. It was chaotic family time. Well, it was absolutely bonkers. And you will appreciate this. Richard has got changed after his race and has put his Spine t-shirt on. Now we know how important a Spine t-shirt is.
Absolutely.
They can't find anything. They can't get the blood pressure cuff on. They can't do this. They can't do that. And someone says, I think we're going to have to cut off his t-shirt. Oh no. No. Richard, move your arm, quick. So all of this was going on. So it was quite an amazing Lakeland. And I said to Richard as he went off in the ambulance, you're going to have to get yourself sorted because the podium is tomorrow and you want to pick up your slate. So you better get back for 12 o'clock tomorrow. And he was. I know it was. He arrived at sort of 5 a.m. But I said, "What is it?" Well, they shoved a couple of bags of saline in me, and I feel great now. And I'm thinking, you are the only Lakeland runner who now feels great because you have got a ton of saline in you and are fully rehydrated. The rest of us are going to take about 5 days.
Incredible. If anything, he cheated his way to recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone could have just thrown themselves on the floor and faked a weak pulse in that moment. One to bear in mind for later. My God, you did.
It was carnage.
Incredible. And you had the whole family involved in this carnage as well. This is absolutely brilliant. But he made it back the next day. He was on his podium for his V50 win. Yeah,
he was. That was such a classic piece of, I've got to do 9 hours to win the V50, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, that's fine. But then you end up in hospital. That's not so good.
Yeah,
it was good.
Well, absolutely incredible. Were you in trouble with your physio after the event? I mean, you had promised not to race. Well, it feels a bit like you raced.
Well, he did send me a little email. You promised not to race. But he did check me out. And as I say, bar a small hip flexor issue, which was small, he said you're good to go to do the FKT, provided, again, your heart rate is back to normal and you feel okay. And to be honest, I did. And we had this sort of window because the girls' travel had changed because of COVID. And we, so suddenly they were away. So we had the small window. Sharon Dyson, who of course you know from Spine, the amazing Sharon, had said, I can do this. And it was this sort of little, few days shaped block around all her cycling commitments. And I really wanted Sharon involved, A, because she's great, but B, because she's done it before. And neither Richard or I had any clue, as you know. So Sharon was essential to me in my thinking. But also I felt like she'd be sort of a bit of a mum to the whole team, and look after everybody and Richard as opposed to just me. So she was quite key. And then we had to sort of try and find willing bodies that would actually run along with me. So, and they were all just people I'd raced with before. So people I'd met in the first Lakeland came out. John Boothman from the Spine came out. It was a very small group of people I'd raced with before and met through racing as opposed to friends. So that was really fun, but it does mean everyone has commitments and family lives. So, someone was like, I've got to get back because I've got a wife who's having a 40th. Wouldn't be good to miss that. no, definitely not good to miss that. Others saying, I've got a bit of holiday here or bits. So we sort of had to mix it up and just find a few days that we could make it all happen. And that's how it happened when it happened. In a perfect world, you'd probably have done it a few weeks later, but you can't factor all of those things in and get it all to happen. So we did. We just went for it.
No, I mean, we talked earlier about, life still happens alongside this ultra running life you've got. There's GCSE results and A-level results. And if you're trying to put a squad together to come and help you do a big FKT together, you've suddenly got to manage a lot of schedules. We're not in a kind of professional athlete environment here where they'll block out the Pennine Way for you for a couple of days for you to do your race. You've got to put this all together on a shoestring.
And just make it, and of course the silly things, Will, that you don't think about. Oh, we're in the middle of the biggest staycation ever, so we can't find a van. We ended up with a taxi, which, the van hire company just took the taxi plate off. So we just had a sort of taxi van. And then Sharon, when she finally met us at Tan Hill, and someone's car. And that was all we had because that was what we could get. We couldn't stay in Edale the night before because there was just nowhere to stay.
Nowhere to stay. Wow.
So we ended up with, okay, we'll start at midday, which means we can stay at home, which means even though we get up early, we're not getting up at 3 a.m. We can get up at 5 or 6 a.m. and still drive there. And it was all of those things that just sort of shaped the FKT. And we just went, okay, well, we'll just go with it. That's how it is. Literally.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Accepting it is how it is and just throwing yourself into it anyway seems to be something very common to how you approach these things, and I love it. We know that we were maybe 3 weeks between the Lakeland 100 and the Spine. How far after the Lakeland 100 were you out to do the FKT then?
I think it must have been 3 or 4. Well, no, it must be 3 because it was 4 weeks. Like Saturday just gone. So, there was exactly 2 months between Spine and that date. So it must have been 3.
And by this point, presumably the physio has a gun to your head and is telling you not to go out and do these things.
He said, if you do this, you are not doing Dragon's Back. And I'd sort of said, okay, thinking, right, well, we'll deal with that one when we get to it. But now, because I injured myself, I'm definitely not doing Dragon's Back. But that was the sort of deal with the physio. And mostly because he said, you really want to do Winter Spine? And I really need you to do a block of proper training now with the weights and the S&C and all the stuff you haven't been doing because you've been out there running. We need that so you can really enjoy that. So that's why I don't want you doing Dragon's Back, because that will just push us back another month. But I was going to negotiate that. But anyway, as it happened, I don't get to negotiate that.
Amazing. And I guess we'll come to the injury, that being FKT related. Hi, everyone. Sorry to interrupt. Just here to remind you that this episode was brought to you by Resilient Nutrition, and you can find their full range of elite long-range fuels exclusively on the BTU store now. The elite long-range fuels are a series of delicious nut butter products with micronutrients and supplements designed to give you exactly what you need when you need it. They're delicious, they're great for fueling your whatever your adventure is, and you can find them on the BTU store and nowhere else right now. Store.beyondtheultimate.co.uk. That's store.beyondtheultimate.co.uk. Okay, let's get back to the podcast. So, how long have you been planning the FKT? I think we talked about it briefly when we spoke last time.
Well, so in the Spine, obviously, Richard was sick and there was all that faff time. I mean, much as I loved chatting to you all at all those aid stations, it doesn't make for the fastest time one can do. So I kind of thought, okay, if I know you need some downtime, but really I didn't need the 2.5 hours here and the 4 hours here. So that was when I started to think, if I could do that in the Spine with a rucksack, with all those bloody gates, then actually maybe I can go faster than that. So I got Richard to do some quick maths, and we worked out that taking out all of that time, adding a little bit for the rucksack, and taking out my nav errors of 3 miles or whatever it was, those fantastic Strava circles, 73 hours was very doable. And so when he put the schedule together, that's why it was 70 hours, because actually that was truly based off Spine time. So we did that before Lakeland 100 and went, this is probably doable. But we didn't actually really put it together and say we're going to do it till after Lakeland 100 in case I picked up an injury. And, that massive tumble in Lakeland 100, that could have turned into an injury that stopped you racing. And I didn't want people to hold their diaries properly until I knew that I was going to do it, because I'm not John Kelly or Damien Hall. And I just felt it was a bit much to, suggest to people that they'd like to give up their holiday and hold it for me if I wasn't going to be fit to race. So it really came together after Lakeland. And it was about 3 or 4 days after Lakeland, because obviously we were then back into family time. And so by the Thursday, Friday of the week after Lakeland, we were going, okay, now we need to think about it. And on the Sunday was when we really started. So we were literally, less than 2 weeks really before FKT, where we said, right, we're doing it. Chaps, hold your diaries. And the WhatsApp group got put together. Boom. Literally.
It's real now. There's a WhatsApp group.
Exactly. It was like that. Well, it became real, well, as you know, when I suddenly decided I had to work out how to use Facebook. So Rich and I went to the Lake District and actually picked up trackers, and then it became really real, because there was this big debate. Do you publicise it? Do you not publicise it? And it was really difficult. Sharon was like, you've got to get out there. And I was like, but I love dot watching. I really love watching people do it. And I thought, well, time to give back. Let's let the dot watching commence. And so that's why we went for that. But then if you're going to do that, you've got to have a Facebook. And so Sharon was in touch with you. She was in touch with Nikki Ligo. How do we do this? Because I had no clue. So as you know.
I love that, and I love that aspect of this community, though. It's just like I knew it was coming because people started tapping me on the shoulder going, well, how would we publicise this on Facebook? And I knew you'd been in touch with Nikki as well, and there's this sort of network of people that are all involved and have a little hand in what everyone else is doing. No, I absolutely love it. I couldn't wait to watch your dot. So thank you for doing that.
Well, it was then, and the open tracking guys were just totally fabulous, because we were still giving them the information about 48 hours before we set off, because nothing was planned. We didn't even have a start time until we had a van, until we knew who was doing what. So it was all, and they were brilliant. And all they said was, we love FKTs, and they just really helped. So, big thank you to Mick at Open Tracking. He was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Mick Kenyon's great.
Yeah.
Big shout out there. Yeah.
Really awesome. So, so there we go. And then you have to work out, how do you carry the stuff? Because we ended up, because we had so few pacers. And I think we should, highlight here that pacing isn't really setting the pace. Lots of people have said to me, they were brilliant. They stayed on your schedule. It was like, no, it was my schedule. They just sort of ran around me in circles while I sort of piddled along. So they were absolutely awesome, and they did the gates, and they carried, we kept the stuff to a minimum. I don't need very much stuff. But what was entertaining was they had one rucksack that they then passed to each person. So as each pacer came in, they passed the rucksack over with a little set of instructions. If this needs putting in, this needs filling up, this needs doing. And then they just carry on. This rucksack, I had to wash it 2 days ago. It was like, oh my God, that is disgusting. 268 miles on many sweaty men, passed from pillar to post. But they all did that and just kept that. So the rucksack was sort of just, went all the way up the course, which was quite important, because we'd worked out that the trackers just needed to be on the rucksack. So I was laughing to myself. So if a pacer suddenly decided to sprint off to the van, I was thinking, wow, someone's going to think I'm now moving really fast. But that worked really, really well, actually, having just my stuff in the rucksack and the rucksack being passed around.
A mule. You have a mule.
I had a mule. I felt like queen for a day. It was brilliant. I had a set of bodyguards. It was amazing. And most of the time there was just one out there with me. Occasionally there was two. And if someone like the amazing Gary Chapman joined us for a chunk, there would be two. And that was really great. But most of the time there was just one. There was me. So I was having to do a bit of nav, which is always a bit of a worry, as you know. So there were I was sort of backup nav. So I was much more with it, I think, on this FKT than maybe in the Spine, because I had to be on it.
Oh, well, yeah. We talked about your nav quite extensively when we talked about the Spine race. Maybe not the strongest aspect of your overall performance on the Spine. Is how we're going to choose to put it. Had you done any sort of extra work to prepare for that before you went into it this way around?
No,
also, did that maybe guide your choice to do it south to north instead of north to south as well?
Totally.
Familiarity, yeah.
Totally, because and my support team, bar someone like John Boothman, most of them had never been on the Pennine Way.
Yeah.
So everyone was nav novices, bar Richard, who's just juniors at the nav. The rest of us were all nav novices. And Mark Smith did join us randomly towards the end, and he knew some of it, but even he made errors. So we did have nav errors in there. It wasn't perfect nav, but that's why I had to do it south to north. That, and as we've talked about before, I'm a really rubbish technical descender. And I knew I was going to hit Cauldron Snout in the dark. Given our timing, I was like, you know what? But funny enough, it was probably slower because John Boothman and I probably didn't take a very good line across the boulders and up to Cauldron Snout. So what we gained in speed up, we probably lost actually across the boulders. And when you look at it compared to spine time, it was much slower. So it swings around that. But I felt much more comfortable going south to north. And also Sharon was going to have to drive down and meet us. So if we were running towards her, we'd get her earlier because she had cycling commitments. So we didn't get Sharon until the Sunday afternoon at Tan Hill. So until then, it really was, famous 5, make it up with bits of string and brown paper because we didn't even have Sharon. So, yeah. So that was all the reasoning behind south to north. And most people say, the Cheviots at the end. But I was fine about the Cheviots at the end until I was injured because I quite like the hills. And I wasn't worried about it. I wasn't going to be out there on my own. So for me, they were going to be much, much better than a spine.
I mean, how did you find the experience with taking away the checkpoint and the need for having to worry about your kit admin and all the sort of faffing around that? Did you enjoy the experience maybe more? At least until you get properly knackered and start injuring yourself.
I think until I got injured, I had an absolute blast. I mean, we were running really well. We were running on schedule. I wasn't finding it hard. I'd had a moment, I'd had 10 hours of feeling pretty nauseous because I think the boys, with over-enthusiasm and me not being strict enough, they'd gone, must eat, must drink, must drink. So for the first 30 miles, I must have turned into a Teletubby because I was just like, eat, drink. At which point my tummy went, you never do this, and now I feel really sick. So I then had, I was nauseous with an upset tummy, which is really great when you don't know loads of boys really well. But anyway, for about... after about 30 miles. And it was a really grim first overnight. It was just to sort of muscle through it. It will change. Just keep muscling through it. You will stop feeling sick. But it did take that long to stop feeling sick. So I didn't love that. But that's ultras. They do chuck that stuff at you. So I wasn't surprised, and it certainly didn't stop my enjoyment of it. I loved having company out there. Really enjoyed that. And my favourite bits were when we did have two people on the fells and they could just chat inane running stuff, which is what they did. And I could just run behind and listen to this inane running stuff, which was just fabulous. So I really enjoyed watching my crew who didn't know each other get to know each other. It became like this boys' road trip because they all did, I think, 15 miles, 30 miles off, 15 miles. So they were just relaying up. So they all got to know each other and have van life in the middle. They all got as knackered as I was because they weren't sleeping either. So that was really great. And well, people came out. I mean, I just was so blown away by that. Bobby up on the top of Crossfell turned up with a full, everything and lemon drizzle cake and then guided us down through the boggy bit and stuff like that was just amazing. A little chap called Alex Sinclair came twice, got his dad to drive an hour and a half round trip just to open a gate. He was on the Pennine Walkers, sort of, website, and he'd seen it and he wanted to see it. And then Lizzie Faithful Davis was just like the statuesque, beauty standing at the top of a mountain waiting for us on the Cheviots, and then took us all the way to, the Cheviot and left us there. I mean, people just, I was blown away by the kindness of the community. I still am. That was just extraordinary. I mean, you talked about the Nikki Ligo, you helping us get it sorted. But those people who come out, there was a couple at the start who ran the first mile with us as well. Just, bits like that were just amazing, just absolutely amazing. I mean, in all honesty, I can't imagine having 20 or 30 people running with you because I would feel compelled to chat.
Yeah.
And you do get to a point where you just don't have that social energy. So you just you can cope with the people but then trying to make, and you would want people to feel welcome. So I think it worked. It was just about the right amount. But yeah, it was amazing. Just the most amazing experience. And I will do it again. I will absolutely do it again.
Incredible. Wow. I look forward to watching that doc for a second time. I mean, what was the going like? Were you feeling confident? But because it really seemed you were shifting quickly. You were open tracking are really good with their dot watching tools that they put out there, in that they always have that little ghost of the previous record time traveling along the trail as well. And that little ghost was behind from minute one. You know, you seem to be feeling really good. So was that fair to say? Did you still have a bit of Lakeland in your legs, or were you just flying when you set off from Edale?
No, I absolutely felt fine. I suspect when you get up to 200 miles and my quad gave in, there was still some Lakeland and probably still some spine in my legs. But I didn't really think about it. Well, I honestly didn't think about it. I would never put that out there as an excuse for what happened. I think an overuse injury is probably a classic but I felt really, really good, and I was really just enjoying it. And that schedule was bang on. I mean, when it was dark and it was overnight, because it was my spine schedule, if I'd been moving in the light, I was faster in the light than overnight. And so sometimes we fell off it, but the minute it got light, we went back on it. And that's, so I think when you see the schedule changing, it was more dark, light, and probably all of us being a bit not perfect on the nav, in the dark, as quick in the dark, because we just don't know it that well. But apart from that, it was great. It was really great, and it was working really, really well. And all of that was fine until we hit Hadrian's Wall. And I just suddenly started to think, if it's a steep descent, I'd rather go round. And that was the first thing. And I was rubbing my leg, and it was like, and it started, but things ache. Of course they ache.
Of course they do.
So I wasn't sure that it was just aching. But then it started to get incredibly angry and just incredibly painful. And those last 60 miles, they weren't a lot of fun, but that was pain. The actual experience was still, this sounds mad, the experience was still great. Meeting Lizzie, for example, up on those Cheviets was still great. Having Mark Smith join us was still brilliant. It was just, I was really sore. And I think when pain makes you tired, I think, and it just became a battle. And don't forget, because of 2020, where I'd been injured for the whole year with that broken foot, in the back of my mind, it was always, am I actually going to do something that's going to take me out for another year? Is this a proper injury? Am I destroying my quad tendon here? What's actually, and I think if we were to do something different, we'd have a medic in the crew next time.
Yeah.
Someone who can go, or a physio who can just go, you know what, that's muscle, crack on. You're going to have 4 or 5 miserable weeks afterwards, but you're not going to destroy yourself. And that's the bit that I was trying to make that decision myself with a brain that had been up for quite some time. And that's when we started to slow. And I think the psychology of that was really interesting as well, because I had it in my mind that the schedule was the schedule. And I think after no sleep, after quite a few days, you become quite dogmatic. But that's the schedule. and I had to suddenly try and alter my psychology somewhere up on the Cheviets due to being in pain, that the schedule didn't matter. It was arbitrary. What mattered was the record. And funnily enough, I did something like the same in the spine, where I've got 80 hours in my head. And if I was not going to beat 80 hours, it wasn't good enough. Where did that come from? It came from nowhere.
Yeah, nobody said that. Only you've said that.
Yeah. And only me said the schedule is the schedule is the schedule.
Yeah.
So that was really fascinating, trying to let that go. I drove Lizzie and Richard possibly bonkers every 2 minutes. So how far is it to go? And what time do we have to do? And what mile do I have to keep the pace at? And how has this got to look? And Richard was trying to do mental maths. I think he was texting people, how many miles have we got to go? As I just got more neurotic around the schedule and the timing as the only thing I could focus on, because I just couldn't run and I couldn't descend, and I had to use my poles on the ups. It was pretty bad. I had a proper meltdown coming down the hill before Hut 2 because it's really steep and it had been really wet. So on the Cheviets, it was winter conditions. It was driving rain. It was it wasn't freezing, but it was enough wet and wind. It was gusts of about 50 miles an hour that blew you sideways. It was all of that sort of classic winter weather. You started to get a bit cold, but because it wasn't winter, you could hang on till daylight, know that you'd get warm again. But it did mean we were back to proper bog. Richard was up to his knees in bog at one point, went for a proper roly-poly in bog at another point because he was leading. So, he was making sure that I didn't end up to my knees in bog. So it was bad conditions. And so that bit down before Hut 2 was really slippy. I mean, it's already got those big sort of muddy sort of, divots, as you like. And so trying to descend when you've got no quad strength to hold you and your foot is just going to do that anyway, was really awful. Once, funny enough, then the boys came back up and met us at Hut 2. Some of the support crew just had walked up out of Kirk to meet us. Then I learned to descend sideways. Once I'd learned that, it was like, okay, I can do this and it doesn't hurt so much. We can actually move at a better speed. And I just started to get happier. It wasn't that I was near the end so much. It was like, it doesn't hurt so much. Yeah. And then once I hit tarmac, it was flat or flatter. And it meant that, again, that was just less painful. So that last bit is just a memory of pain. And as I said, none of us had actually looked at the leg. So I suspect the boys were just like, oh, she's falling apart. Classic woman. Useless. No, they weren't thinking that. I think they were probably thinking that she's just falling apart. And of course it hurts, because none of us had actually looked at what was going on.
Right. That seems crackers. Because I can't remember if it came via Sharon or maybe it was Jamie, because I know Jamie Rutherford, who was also on... He was on the spine with me as part of the media team. He popped across to Kirk Yettam and grabbed a couple of photos of you at the finish line, which was just great.
It was amazing.
Happened to be in the area, thought I'd pop along. Lovely. So I can't remember, it might have been Sharon, it might have been him that sent me a message, but somebody sent me a picture of your knee. And I was like, oh my God. It was like someone had shoved a grapefruit down the front of your leggings. And that was, it looked bad.
Well, and that's the thing none of us had looked at. Because we were just focused on getting on and getting moving and keeping moving. And it was, so that was a bit of a moment. I looked down and went, oh, because even until someone took that photo, even I hadn't looked down. I was like, right, it really hurts. Again, the funny thing is John Boothman had said, right, we're 5 minutes from the finish here. We've got to run. And we all went, oh yes, must run. In hindsight, how stupid was that?
We're already up on the record and my knee is the size of a watermelon. How about we just walk?
I know, it was
But it's been said now, so you're running in.
Yeah. Exactly. Once someone puts that out there, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're running it. And so we're all in our winter waterproofs. You can see, this is it's a classic, almost summer spine finish with everyone in full winter kit. Anyway, yes, it was that. It didn't stop my enjoyment, but it does mean that I know there's a chunk of time to come off. And so I will go again because I really, really enjoy it. And for me, I think it's just a great route. It's sort of a mix of runnable, not too technical. It sort of plays to what I can do. So I'm definitely going to find a window and try and do it when I'm not starting tired. Because I suspect I loved the summer spine because I was totally fresh after everyone had a year off from COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely go again.
Incredible. And what do we know about your knee? We don't have to go into detail, obviously, but are you going to be up and about again soon?
So I'm walking on the flat. I'm still going up and down stairs one leg at a time, but that's fine. And I'm seeing the physio today. And then I'll be told what I can do and what I can't do. We're meant to be in the lakes for a few days with Richard training for the Dragon's Back, and I will see if I can get permission to do anything at all. I suspect he'll say it's driven by pain, which means I won't be doing too much. It has been pretty sore, but to be honest, you don't do much after a week after a spine anyway. True. If you're going to be injured, it's a good week to be injured. That's the way I'm trying to look at it.
Very, very true.
So as long as I can keep moving and being outside, I'm fine. Psychologically, if I can't go for a walk, then I start to get a bit. So it's fine. And I reckon he might strap it, and that might make quite a difference. But we'll see. I'm making this up, Will. I have no idea.
We will find out. We don't know. I tell you what, if I see your name on the starting line of the Dragon's Back, I'm going to be very annoyed.
No, I have
You've been told.
I've actually done the thing and cancelled it already. Because I thought if it starts to get better and feels better, there is a chance I'll go, oh, maybe I'll just see how it is. I thought, right now, I've got to actually cancel it now. So I've actually done it. I have done it. I got a WhatsApp from Sophie Grant, who's about to race TDS, and she went, I am so proud of you. That would have been so hard. So yeah, I'm feeling very proud of myself for actually hitting the cancel button.
Well done.
Yeah.
That's a tough challenge you've got through as well, and I do appreciate that. Anna, this is turning into what people refer to as a sort of breakout year for you in terms of your career. Just win, FKT. Just massive congratulations.
Thank you.
It's been fantastic to have another excuse to talk to you again. I almost daren't ask because who knows what it is. But is there any other challenge you've got in mind now? I know you're going to go back and have another go at the Pennine Way FKT, and I completely get that. You can see where you could take time off that again. So that FKT's got to be feeling vulnerable right now. But are there any others you've set your sights on?
I'm really excited about the winter spine because it's going to be such a big challenge for me in terms of just managing the weather and the conditions. And so I think that will just be massive learning. So I have no expectations on that. And I just think even finishing that is going to be interesting. It's just a totally different race to summer. And I'm probably more of a summer athlete. So I'm quite excited about just investigating that. Now I've learned about how to manage sleep and how to manage food and what works for me. I'm quite excited about that. So now I'll be managing body temperature. So that'll be good. I'm quite tempted to look at a Southwest Coast path. I've thought about that for a while. I need to have very strong legs and knees because the up and the down in that is quite severe, but I am quite tempted by that. I have to say, I look at a joggle and Richard goes, oh God, it's all road. But I do look at that and think, that's quite interesting. Now I'm learning what works for me. So it's more about working out now the races that are going to, and the things that are going to work for me that sort of seem to suit my physiology. So that's the plan, Will. So I don't quite know what that looks like. But there will eventually be a plan. I think what I want to do is find out what the physio says, find out if there's any proper damage, and then start to plan the next phase. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. And I've just reached out for my bookcase here to touch wood. That leg's going to be fine. Yeah. And what an exciting time to be at. Bloody hell, I've had this really, really good year. Now let's figure out what's good. Yeah. What am I best at? What shall I aim at next? How very exciting, Anna Troup. I'm so pleased for you.
Well, and it is really exciting, but and as I said, in that post, at 51, you don't really expect podiums anymore. And I think I get huge excitement. So a girl called Amelia Churnside joined as part of our support crew. She was someone I met at Lakeland, but really she was a girlfriend of one of the boys who was supporting. And, she said to me, actually her boyfriend said, Amelia would like to go sub 24 at Lakeland. And I found myself going, she can. That's amazing. I'm really excited about these younger women who have the speed to do that. That us oldies just, we don't have that speed anymore to go. We may have the resilience and the endurance and all that other good stuff, but they're going to trash us over 100 miles if they get it right. Just like Georgina with the confidence would have trashed us and should have done. So I'm finding that really exciting. So I'm almost ready on those sort of 100-milers to see that next generation come through. And I'm quite excited about that because ultra has been just sort of a bit of the domain of us oldies because the youngsters have been focused on other things. But if we can get their speed and then just add their confidence and resilience, we could have some brilliant British racers.
Well, it sounds like you're training one at home.
Well, Millie loves it. I don't see her yet being the best part, 5'11". She's not really built to be, Sabrina and I had coffee the other day and chatted FKTs in the lakes just after I'd done it. And I was looking at Sabrina and she was somewhere sort of down here and I was thinking that's a much better shape and size for doing these things fast. So I think Minnie's at the tall end, but she's loving it. So we are building one at home because she just enjoys it.
And I think that's wonderful that you're able to share those experiences as a family because it's a very niche thing, ultra running. So if you find a couple who've managed to get together and they're both ultra runners, brilliant. Absolutely a boon for them. But you've got the kids involved as well, and it's not always an easy sell to a younger crowd, the ultra running scene.
No, because we're all a bit bonkers. But and a really fun thing was Debs White, who clearly you know very well from Spine Time. Millie finished her race and said, I met this really great girl. We ran together for chunks of it called Elizabeth, and Millie's going to Oxford and Elizabeth's at Cambridge, and they had a really great time. Debs' daughter.
Incredible.
And then at the end, I met Debs' husband, Scott, and he said, oh, yeah, I'm in a tent with you and Richard for Dragon's Back. It was just... So that's just really nice, this whole ultra community. So I think if we can get those youngsters sort of joining in, meeting each other at that age, the 18, 19, 20, and sort of staying, because then they all stay in touch on social media and Facebook and all that sort of stuff. Then that's the next generation who are going to have lots of fun with it because it'll be a community for them too. And so that was really lovely.
Absolutely. And, there's so much that I've learned from the scene of ultra running, and a lot of us only come into contact with it sort of a bit later in life. I think there would have been huge value for Will in his early 20s to have been involved in this scene. So, more young people, please get involved.
We've got Millie volunteering on the spine, so she's part of Kevin McCann's team.
Oh, brilliant.
For the winter spine. So I think that's a brilliant way of getting them involved early, because then they see it from the other side and they get really caught up in that marshalling volunteering community, which actually is the key community that allows everyone else to do it. So if they do that, they see what works, what doesn't, who suffers, who doesn't, how you get out of the checkpoint, all of that sort of stuff.
I mean, it's why there's always so many volunteers on the spine. It's not just the love for the spine and the family of people that get together, because you learn an awful lot from watching other runners come in and out of those checkpoints. You can learn a lot from the things they do right and the things they do wrong.
So that's her sort of university holiday. She will be up there with Kevin doing whatever she's told to do.
Brilliant. Well, I shall say hi when I see her there.
Oh yeah, you can get her typing up some social media bits, Will. Perfect.
Brilliant. I've always wanted an apprentice.
She'd love it.
Well, Anna, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you again. Sets me up right for the day chatting to you. It absolutely does. And I'm just so pleased for you. That was such an incredible performance I got to watch at the Summer Spine, and now the Lakeland 100 as well, and then this FKT. I'm really pleased for you, and thank you for publicising the attempt. It really has been a pleasure to watch what you've been up to over the last few months.
Thank you, Will. It's been great to catch up.
Yeah. Okay. Have a great day.
And you. Cheers. Bye.